Hello again, fight fans. Welcome back to 10 Count. I'm your host, Michael Montero, joined by Doug Fischer, the editor of Ring Magazine, and Mike Baca of Undisputed Champion Network. Guys, on March 3rd, there's a litany of boxing going on a couple of different networks. We have cards going head-to-head. At the time we're filming this, we don't know if Wilder and Ortiz will land on Showtime or CBS. Either way, Deontay Wilder putting up his WBC heavyweight title against Luis Ortiz, the Cuban fighter. And in the co-main of that card, Jermall Charlo going up against Hugo Centeno for the interim middleweight title. And also Andre Dirrell, not Anthony, Andre Dirrell fighting Jose Uzcategui for an interim super middleweight title. That's from the Barclays Center in New York on HBO. Also in New York, but at Madison Square Garden, yes. Different borough. Sergey Kovalev putting his WBO light heavyweight title on the line against Igor Mikhalkin, and Dmitry Bivol putting his WBA light heavyweight title on the line against Sullivan Barrera. Let's start with the card at Barclays with the heavyweight matchup, Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz. Doug, this fight was supposed to happen last year.
Right.
There were the issues with VADA, Luis Ortiz getting popped for drugs that were in his blood pressure medication. It's since been vindicated.
Right.
Turns out he just didn't fill out the forms the correct way. He was fined for that.
That was an expensive mistake.
A very expensive mistake.
He had to pay a fine, and he missed out on that payday, that shot at the WBC
payday,
title holder.
And there was a testing protocol that the WBC mandated that his team is responsible for paying for. All that's been settled. Now the fight's back on. Did any of that drama, was any of that a buzzkill for you? Or are you just as excited for this fight as you were before?
I'm excited for this fight. I'm excited for this fight because it's kind of like a package deal. You have, on March 3rd, you have Wilder versus Ortiz. And then at the end of the month, March 31st, you have Anthony Joshua versus the WBO title holder, Joseph Parker. Right. So that's a fight that's for 3 of the major titles. Deontay Wilder has the 4th major sanctioning organization belt. So a lot of fight fans are looking at the month of March sort of as like the heavyweight Final Four. They're saying, hey, if the winners of these 2 fights fight each other sometime this year, we get an undisputed champion. And when's the last time we could say that? It's been a while.
Yep.
So people are excited. People are excited about the heavyweight division again. Listen, there's a lot to criticize about Deontay Wilder. Sometimes his technique is not exactly textbook. He hasn't fought any legitimate top 10 contenders since he won the title against Bermane Stiverne. And no, that rematch doesn't count because Stiverne was definitely not ranked. Definitely did not give a damn walking in there. I mean, that was, you know, whatever. That was what it was. But it whet our appetites because when Wilder is on, he's explosive. He's thrilling. He's a pure puncher with a puncher's mentality, and he does have some underrated technique and ring generalship, and I believe he's going to need that technique and that ring generalship and that long jab and some lateral movement to get by this challenge because Luis Ortiz is a legitimate top 5, you know. Yeah, he's definitely a contender. Top 5-ish, maybe not top 5. But he's a contender. He's a real threat. He's dangerous. Obviously, he realizes this might be his only shot at that world title, his only shot at glory. He's not young. He's no spring chicken. But he's been grinding for a while in the pro ranks, and he has yet to realize his potential, the potential that a lot of pundits and fight fans saw in him when he dismantled Bryant Jennings a couple years ago. So he's going to enter the ring hungry, and that means he's going to be dangerous. And dangerous situations make for compelling fights.
And don't you get the sense that Wilder, and maybe it is the criticism that he's getting, don't you get the sense Wilder's kind of fighting a little angry now, and that's making him a little better?
I like it.
Because, I mean, we did mention the second Stiverne fight was kind of, you know, it was only...
joke. He didn't want it. He didn't want that. That was the WBC.
That was Don King.
Oh, sure.
But
in the fight itself, Deontay Wilder had a very nice jab.
Yes.
Very strong. It was authoritative.
Yes.
He was not messing around in that fight, regardless of what Stiverne was thinking in there. I have no idea what that was or whatever, but Deontay got the job done, and he brought along a blood-curdling knockout that does you know, rev up the engine of fans, and fans love knockouts. Against this matchup against Ortiz, the knockout would serve him well, especially with that Anthony Joshua fight looming. Everybody's going to want that fight eventually. Realistically, I think we're going to have to wait. Yeah. God, that's very realistic of you. Oh, man.
Yeah,
I was going to say late 2018, but 2019 does sound
spring of
about
2019.
Right. But if they put this fight on CBS, which I think they should, we need to get Deontay. If we really want that fight, we need to get Deontay Wilder out there and get him.
Well, that's one of the plus sides of Wilder. He's like a pro wrestler. He's bombastic. I mean, he's not shy in post-fight interviews.
Not at all.
I expect him to call out the winner of Joshua Parker. I expect him to beat the drums, and I expect fans and the media to beat the drums. So there will be pressure on both sides to make that fight. If Wilder comes out victorious on March 3rd and Joshua comes out victorious on March 31, that's all anyone's going to talk about, is that eventual matchup of undefeated boxer-punchers in the heavyweight division. That's all anyone's going to talk about. So I wouldn't be shocked if it did happen in late 2018. But realistically, yeah.
With business of boxing, and then the mandatory situation.
Right.
Guys, am I crazy for thinking that this fight's not going to be as competitive as most people feel?
No,
I have a sneaking suspicion that Ortiz is a tad overrated. He has the win over Bryant Jennings, but Tony Thompson and Malik Scott, or his other two big wins, had over 300 amateur wins. Great amateur fighter, right? But
did he look like a world beater against Scott or
no,
Thompson? And they just moved around on him.
He's listed
Rangy
at
guys who moved on him.
38, 39 years old. He's probably 45. I see Wilder winning this fight by stoppage, and I think it's going to be quite decisive. There's going to be scary moments early on, but I see Wilder fighting discipline behind the jab. Wilder has insane reach.
He does.
And when he uses that jab, his length he might be the longest fighter in heavyweight history at this level. He really, really might be. I can't think of one as long. So I think Ortiz is going to be swinging at air with his counter punches if Wilder fights smart. And if he uses that left hand and pushes Wilder to the side, it's going to set up that right hand. Yeah. Boxing 101, Wilder can win this fight by knockout. Also, I mentioned before on this card, Jermall Charlo and Andre Dirrell are fighting. For Dirrell, it's a rematch against Uzcategui. Are you excited for that fight at all?
That fight was kind of wild and crazy. I mean, obviously, the ending was
minus the uncle. Minus the uncle.
But let's take out the crazy stuff at the end. It was a competitive fight.
Yes,
absolutely.
Uzcategui was getting to him. He had hurt him. And
could Uzcategui make round 1 of this, round 13 of that first fight?
I do. I believe he can continue that momentum. He knows what he has, and we have to remind ourselves, Dirrell's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
He's been around for a long time. He's starting to lose some of that quickness, some of those reflexes. He was never the most durable fighter out there, but even when he loses like this, it's officially a DQ, like the Arthur Abraham fight was back in 2010. You know, that takes something from you. That puts questions in your head. And Uzcategui has improved as a fighter, and he's very rangy and he can punch. So I'm kind of feeling Uzcategui in this fight.
And
I hope I'm not butchering his name.
He has to be a little bit more confident going into this fight as well, especially after the last fight. So that's going to help him, I think.
Good chin. I mean, he took the uncle's punch well, too. I didn't even see that coming.
Or he doesn't have power.
Yeah. For Charlo Centeno, this is for an interim middleweight title. This is a way for the BC. They're favoring. They're in business with the PBC and Uncle Al. Come on, this is a way to get Charlo lined up for eventual title fight, right? I see him.
Right. Well, I think there's going to be. They have their interim title.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's for the interim BC.
Well, so that's a sanctioning fee. That's just being a business.
Yes.
That's making money right there. I think most people love Jermall Charlo going away in this fight.
Absolutely.
Centeno's never really impressed people until he lands that like one-hitter quitter. He's done it twice, but against a lower level of opponent than Jermall Charlo. He did it against James De La Rosa a few years ago in Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I was there for that.
Was that a Barclays?
That came out of nowhere. Yeah, that was on the undercard of David Lemieux, Gabe Rosado. And then it was last year. What's the guy's name? He was an African name.
He was always
a
South African fighter.
No, he's African.
Alim. Emmanuel Alim.
Emmanuel Alim.
Yes.
who would look excellent. He had beaten some highly touted, Eastern Bloc
It was
Russian,
a fight of the year
Ukrainian
contender.
fighter. Yeah,
that was an early fight of the year contender.
but he had worn this dude down. I'm forgetting the dude's name. His nickname is the Lion. Based in the East Coast, but he was one of these amateur standouts, hard-nosed dude. So Aleem had a lot of momentum going into that Centeno fight. Centeno, I mean, he's not impressive when you're watching the fight, as the fight's happening, and then suddenly, boom, this skinny kid lands this punch.
He's Andy
and
Lee-esque
gone.
in that sense.
Yeah, he's
kind of like an Andy Lee,
Mexican-American Andy Lee.
It's a good comparison. I like
Mexican-Irish
God,
comparison.
if he finds a way to land that one-hitter quitter against Charlo, there will be a lot of bummed-out boxing fans.
That would be
because there's a lot of heat. There's a lot of hype.
That's why
there's a lot of excitement around Charlo, and you're right. That's why they fight the fights.
So going over from Brooklyn to the city, we at MSG, Sergey Kovalev going up against the German-based Russian Igor Mikhalkin. Admittedly, I don't know much about this guy. This is a layup for Sergey, right?
It's another confidence builder for Kovalev.
So this is
Staying
another
busy.
This is Shabransky 2.0.
Sure.
Get him in there.
The best part of this is that it's happening quickly after Kovalev's last fight, and they're just kind of getting it over with.
Trying to build a following in New York City, which is smart.
And we have Wilder Ortiz as our main event that night.
Right.
That's the main event.
But the co-feature to this fight.
That's the main event. I think this steals the show. I'm more excited about
Bivol Barrera is a very good fight.
For Bivol, he's looked outstanding in his fights. He punches through the target like nobody else in boxing maybe right now. But he's making a massive leap in opposition. And for Sullivan Barrera, those 12 rounds he went with Andre Ward, you talk about learning on the job. He's looked great since then. But he's been dropped.
Yes.
Yeah. He's been dropped, I want to say 5 times. Yeah, 5 times as a pro, 4 times in recent fights. So a lot of questions are going to be answered in this fight, right? Sure. For Bivol, how does he catch? And for Barrera, can he catch Bivol's punches? Can he outsmart the younger guy and catch him with something, the lesser experienced guy? How do you see this fight playing out, Mike? Because I can't, I'm 50-50. I want to say Barrera might shock the world here, but the way Bivol punches through the target and the chinniness of Barrera, you got to favor Bivol, right?
There's also a big discrepancy in age.
Right.
Barrera's 35 years old, and he doesn't seem 35. He doesn't look it either. But he is 35, and he's been boxing a long time. He's also been waiting for a title shot for a long time at 175 pounds. I think he's going to go into this fight thinking he has nothing to lose. I don't think this is necessarily going to be his last shot at a title because he is with main events. They have Kovalev. They're going to need opponents.
He's a serviceable guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. But looking on the other side for Bivol, this is the step-up fight. The step-up fight for Bivol. He showed a good jab against Trent Broadhurst not too long ago, knocked him out with a right hand, follow-up right hand, and it was nice. It was short and sweet.
Right
HBO was kind of, they shrugged their shoulders and then showed the fight 3 more times because they didn't know what else to do for the hour.
And they're building him up, too. They're looking at him as that guy.
I was happy that we had a matinee, and they went over to Monte Carlo to show that fight because they knew that this kid Bivol has some talent.
He looks special.
Yes, and they have a lot of light heavyweights over there.
mentality.
So he passes the eye test. It's time to pass a real test, and that's what Barrera is. I think this is the best matchup of the night on March 3.
Yes.
It's the most even matchup, at least on paper. I favor Bivol. I really do. I like his I think he's a better athlete than Barrera, which is saying something because Barrera's a good athlete. I like his technique better. I like his precision more. But Barrera is battle-tested, and Bivol is not. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bivol buzzes him, hurts him, or drops him early. But if Bivol can't finish him, I expect Barrera to get up, shake off the cobwebs, be a professional, and get back on the grind. And at that point, I think we have a fight. I think it's Barrera's job to take the young man who's not battle-tested late into the fight, and try to drown him.
Agreed. That's when it's going to get interesting. And
absolutely.
As they say, that's why they fight the fights. Let us know what you guys think. Comment below. Like, share, subscribe. For Doug Fischer and Mike Baca, I'm Michael Montero. We'll see you next time on 10 Count.